All right, here we go. This is where we target poulet braisé, chicken street, and of course KFC. Chicken is becoming the ultimate weapon of fast food in France. Cheaper than beef, seen as healthier and compatible with almost every diet. Since 2022, fried chicken has even overtaken pizza among the most ordered dishes in France. And when it comes to fried chicken, there's an undisputed king, KFC. Nearly 32,000 restaurants in 145 countries, a recipe that's almost a century old, and a brand known from Tokyo to Lagos. In other words, KFC has the right product at the right time and is on the right side of history. And yet in France, this global king of chicken remains a dwarf. In 2024, McDonald's has a turnover of 6.1 billion euros in the country of gastronomy, while 885 million, 7 times less. But how can a brand that has everything it takes to win remain so crushed in just one country? The answer lies in a concept that few people know about, and that has been studied by business strategy researchers: the strategic window. It's a concept that also explains why some giant companies fail where no one expected them to. We're going to break it down in this video. Hi team mindset, I hope you're doing well. Today we're diving into the story of the world's #1 chicken brand, which has everything it needs to win, but has been running into an invisible wall for 30 years. It's a story about timing, strategy, and a mistake that many entrepreneurs make without even realizing it. Before we begin, remember this episode is available as a podcast on all platforms. Find the link in the description or scan the displayed QR code. Our story begins in the 1950s in Kentucky. A man, Colonel Armand Sanders, develops a fried chicken recipe with 11 herbs and spices. The success is overwhelming, and in just a few decades, KFC becomes a global chicken empire. But as it grows, the brand will change hands several times. And in 1986, it was bought for $840 million by a giant that feared nothing in the restaurant business, PepsiCo. The group already owns Pizza Hut and Taco Bell, and with KFC, PepsiCo simply becomes the largest restaurant group in the world. Building on this success abroad, KFC set out to conquer France and opened its first restaurant in 1991 in the Carrefour shopping center in Villiers-en-Bière in Seine-et-Marne. A global giant, a century-old recipe, enormous resources. But very quickly, KFC ran into a problem it hadn't anticipated. The spot was already taken. And the story of McDonald's in France is worth a closer look because it has been rewritten. Officially, McDonald's says it opened its first restaurant in Strasbourg in 1979. But that's not true. The very first McDonald's restaurant opened as early as 1972 in Créteil, thanks to a French businessman, Raymond Dayon. McDonald's, convinced that hamburgers would never work in the land of gastronomy, had granted him a franchise on favorable terms. Except Dayon was too successful. By the late 1970s, he owned 14 extremely profitable restaurants. McDonald's wanted to buy him out, but he refused. The company then stripped him of the BR and opened its own restaurant in Strasbourg in 1979. That's when McDonald's began its real conquest of France. By the way, that could also be the subject of a video, considering how crazy the story is. A French entrepreneur who stood up to McDonald's. Anyway, let me know in the comments if you're interested. But to get back to KFC, this is where the concept we mentioned in the introduction comes in. The strategic window. Theorized in 1978 by the American researcher Derek Abel, the principle is formidable. In a market, there is a limited period, a window during which the opportunity is up for grabs. But this window always ends up closing. For fast food in France, this window opened at the end of the 1970s. McDonald's jumped right in. With a decade's head start, they locked down the best locations in the country. Busy street corners, shopping areas, highway exits, with very long-term leases. And above all, they taught an entire country what fast food is. When KFC arrived in 1991, McDonald's already had more than 300 restaurants, and KFC would make its situation even worse. First, its own owner lets it go. In the mid-90s, PepsiCo froze the brand's development in France, which at that time had only 7 restaurants, and in '97 it completely separated from its entire restaurant division. KFC's expansion in France was sacrificed on the altar of a global restructuring. Then the product itself became a problem. In the 90s, French people mainly associated fast food with burgers and fries. Fried chicken with sauce was much less popular, as burgers dominated and the best spots were already taken. So KFC set up in second-rate locations, less visible and therefore less frequented. The result was clear. In the early 2000s, KFC was a global giant, but in France it was a dwarf. About 10 restaurants, a brand that almost no one knows. Many people then thought that KFC was finished in the country, but they were wrong, because the brand was about to find a loophole that McDonald's, too busy ruling, didn't see coming. In the early 2000s, after coming under the control of the future Yum Brands, KFC restarted its development. The group made a clear observation that all entrepreneurs facing their own Goliath should make. Facing McDonald's head-on is suicide. McDonald's has the locations, the brand recognition, and is the go-to choice for the French. So KFC changed its strategy and targeted McDonald's blind spots. The first one is geography. McDonald's set up shop in the suburbs. KFC targets dense urban centers and working-class neighborhoods where demand is high. The second blind spot is the customer base. KFC targets a specific clientele, a young, urban, multicultural clientele who identify with its streetwear and pop image. KFC becomes a cool brand, to the point where Karl Lagerfeld himself lends his image to it. The third blind spot, and the most important one, is the product. KFC is the king of burgers and beef, but when it comes to chicken, McDonald's has never really dominated, and KFC is the world's #1 in chicken. For years, this chicken positioning was a handicap, but the world is changing, and KFC now finds itself sitting on a gold mine. Because chicken is cheaper than beef, perceived as healthier, compatible with Asia, almost all diets, and much less polluting. KFC struggled with the wrong product for years, but now has the right one at the right time. Since the late 2000s, it has accelerated its progress. In 10 years, the chain increased its number of restaurants by 122%. I remember the opening of the first KFC in the Lyon area in Braun in 2007. It was like the launch of the latest iPhone. Hours of waiting in line to eat chicken. McDonald's, over the same period, only grew by 22%. For every restaurant McDonald's adds, KFC adds almost 6. In January 2026, the chain will reach 20%. 24 of its restaurants serve 100% certified halal chicken in high-demand areas, before announcing a gradual expansion that could reach up to a quarter of the network. While McDonald's has remained cautious and generalist, KFC is embracing a targeted offer to attract customers that its competitor does not directly target. Quick has used this strategy successfully, as shown in another channel video. Plus, KFC will become a marketing powerhouse. In 2024, the brand teamed up with Mr. V to create Mama's Burgers. The result? 1.2 million burgers sold in 4 weeks. The app is downloaded 4 million times and 2 million customers join the loyalty program. KFC is also speeding up its local sourcing, with nearly half of its chicken now coming from France. And the story is turning in its favor. In 2022, fried chicken surpasses pizza and becomes one of the most ordered dishes in French fast food. It becomes the rising challenger, the one McDonald's is watching closely. The comeback is spectacular. But you must be wondering, if KFC found the right formula with the right product and the right strategy, why is the chain still so far behind McDonald's? Well, it's simple. Despite the 122% growth in chicken becoming king, there's still a painful number. In 2024, McDonald's weighs in at 6.1 billion euros in France, KFC 885 million. The king of chicken is still 7 times smaller than the king of burgers. But how is that possible after all these efforts? The answer comes down to 2 concepts. The first one, which we've already talked about, is the strategic window. McDonald's has built 2 advantages that KFC will never be able to take back. The first is the network. With nearly 1,660 restaurants compared to 400 for KFC, McDonald's has a restaurant less than 20 minutes away from almost every French person. This network was built over decades, and it's impossible to catch up. The second is the habit. For millions of French people, McDonald's means childhood, birthdays, the first Happy Meals. This emotional habit is ingrained from a very young age, and no campaign can erase it. And that's where the second concept comes in, the one that explains why these 2 advantages are so strong. Economists call it path dependence. The idea is fascinating. When a collective behavior takes hold, it eventually becomes fixed and self-reinforcing, even when better options exist. The best example is your computer keyboard. The AZERTY layout was designed more than a century ago to slow down typing on mechanical typewriters and prevent the type bars from jamming. That technical constraint has been gone for decades, and yet you still type in AZERTY today. Not because it's the best system, but simply because everyone learned to type on it, and changing would require an effort that nobody wants to make. McDonald's in France is exactly like that. Millions of French people have grown up with McDonald's as a staple. The course is set, and KFC, even with the best chicken in the world, isn't fighting against a competitor, but against a national habit that's set in stone. And that's where the business lesson in our story lies. KFC has everything: the trendy product, the recognition, the resources, but it's missing the one thing you can't make up for: timing. When you spot an emerging market, your worst enemy isn't the competition, it's hesitation. The right product launched too late will always lose to an average product launched at the right time. Don't try to be the best. Focus first on being there at the right moment. Because while KFC tried everything with its chicken, Burger King, despite having a similar product, maybe even better quality than McDonald's, huge resources and a good image, is doomed to stay in McDonald's shadow for a surprising reason, as you can see in the video on screen.